So the next one I want to do for you is a card that you'll see there called Herb Collins. A Collins, you might be familiar with the word Tom Collins. Typically called Tom Collins because of the style of gin that was used to first make it, which at the time was an Old Tom gin. Old Tom gin was a very diverse category or style of gin, and you'll find some people that'll argue incessantly about which one was right and which none of them are really right per se, because the beauty of Old Tom was that it was a very rustic style of gin that was full and rich of flavor and slightly sweetened. It got its name because there were in early times of England, there were these gin palaces that rose, that only the wealthy and the fortunate could enter and be in these gin palaces. Essentially, it was just another name for a fancy bar. But not everybody could enter one of these. So in order to still maximize their market reach, then they would often have a little statue of a black cat that they called an old tomcat. And a person passing by in front of the bar could put a penny into a little slot, and then they could put their mouth or a glass underneath, and a little stream of gin would come out. And it was the most common style of gin that was being consumed during those days, and so the Old Tom was that style of gin. In some cases they would want to transfer or ship the gin from A to B, and the most efficient and least costly to transport would be in barrels. So you'll find some styles of Old Tom gin that have been barrel aged for a period of time and taking on a little bit of that color, a little bit of flavor from the oak, and changing, in some people's opinions, for the positive, the flavor profile of that particular gin. And others are kept clean and without wood influence. But once again, an Old Tom gin is just slightly sweetened. So the Tom Collins came from that. They would take Old Tom gin, a squeeze of lemon, a dash of sugar, and top it with soda or seltzer, because bubbly water was all the rage. If you can imagine, like it wasn't even that long ago, say in the 1800s, that all of a sudden carbonated water came along, and how exciting that you could actually have a fizzy, a bubbly drink, and you could, the diversity, all the different uses that you could use this sparkly water for, people just started putting it in everything. And the Tom Collins was one of those early drinks in the 1800s that was developed because of the love of drinking gin. Vodka didn't really exist in most countries back then, because vodka was still being held captive in Russia and Poland and the Ukraine, and the rest of the world didn't really know much about vodka. In fact, one of the reasons why James Bond was always so fascinated with drinking vodka is because, and his drink was the Vesper, 2 parts gin, 1 part vodka, a splash of Lillet, shaken, served into a cocktail coupe and a twist of lemon. And it's rumored that one of the reasons why he had vodka added to that drink in 1953 in Casino Royale, when that film was being written, was because it showed him as being more worldly and more traveled. Because in the 50s, vodka didn't really exist in North America. You know, few and far between. You had to kind of be in the know to drink a spirit like that. And everybody was drinking gin. So it's interesting how we're hugely into vodka now when we look at sales figures. I always choose to drink spirits with a little more flavor profile, but I'm not opposed to, you know, a nice clean vodka either. So this Herb Collins was more a way, just an idea of born from utilizing all these wonderful, rich, fresh herbs and presenting them with gin, with a splash of lemon, with a splash of simple syrup, just